Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We are now on Checkpoint, and we want to have our discussion as we had promised you earlier. Now, yesterday you did see that story we ran about the members of National Assembly who mentioned the fact that TNA had officially asked the president to not attend the Hague hearings come November the 12th. And then, of course, the president made a statement that many said was open to different forms of interpretation. Take a look at what the MPs had to say, and indeed what the president himself said regarding this matter.
We will not allow in this country our president to be taken outside in an outside court. We will not allow.
Kwa hivyo hata kama deputy president akikuja, tutaweza kuamua hata yeye hatarudi hiyo wiki.
Sisi wenyewe tunasimama airport, hata kama wewe mwenyewe ukitaka, we don't allow you to go because of sovereignty.
Mambo haya ambayo mnasikia ya huko mimi sitaki kuyataja. Hawa viongozi anyway tuko hapo hiyo line hiyo.
All right, interesting there. And let's just get that perspective. Professor Kisiangani, what do you make of that statement by the president? Will he go, will he not go?
He's saying he will not go. I think he has let the cat out of the bag. He says he will not go. And again, the MPs have said they would put a barricade at the airport to stop him from going. My opinion about this is that sometimes you can have very expensive friends who tell you, who cheer you when things are not right, and they put you in trouble. The president has to be trusted from his own word. When he stood for elections, he said that was a private matter and they will handle it. That is the point at which we want to look at the president and assess the veracity of his statements. And when he said that it was private, we hoped that he will deal with it legally. But the way the matter is graduating now, it's going to levels where now it has turned political. There is an attempt to mobilize the entire African continent to enter into this matter. If indeed the MPs believe that Bensouda does not have evidence and is playing around with people, the president can have his way in court and prove that Bensouda doesn't know what she's doing, and he will come out very strong.
Okay. Interesting point you bring up about the president's friends and the people that surround him and what they're telling him. Moses, is he being misled by those close to him?
I think there's a divided opinion on this issue of whether the president should actually go to the ICC or not. And when I say the president, I'm saying the presidency, because I think the way this government has actually tried to come out is of a shared presidency. That is the president and the deputy president. There are those people who are of the opinion that maybe, they should go to the court, they should defend themselves, and because in all but certainty, it looks like there's no case, it's a very weak case, then they should go the whole hog and prove themselves and get done with this matter once and for all. There are those people who also say that, one, that the whole sovereignty and the whole nationhood of Kenya is on trial there, that the whole thing actually, what they're saying is that the deputy president for the last 1 month or so has been serving a sentence right there, being humiliated, having to sit through and listen to witnesses who don't even know their names.
So out of all those schools of
out of those two, I cannot
yes.
give you my personal opinion,
yes.
is that I'm with the latter. I am one of those people who, having watched what's happening there, I think is a waste of time and space and our sovereignty to have the president or the deputy president sitting in there. And by the way, I've studied over the last few weeks what happened in Arusha during the ICTR, the Rwandan trials. And the way the trial of the deputy president is going is you can see generally there's overgeneralization of the whole thing. And because there's one fact that is not disputable, that is crimes were committed in Kenya. the theory that was advanced in Arusha is that as long as we don't have a dispute that crimes were committed, you can pick on Yvonne Okwara or anybody and say they are, they are to blame.
Moses, if that be the case, as you say, that there's a lot of generalization and that the case is weak, why not go with the first option that you'd mentioned of just going the whole hog of the case and perhaps using it as an example to the ICC?
That would be logical, and that's what I'm saying about you compare with other cases like Arusha, even some cases that have gone through the ICC, that all they want is somebody to convict. Yeah, that once we agree that there's no doubt that crimes were committed, they can pick on anybody and convict anybody.
These are
let me finish.
These are wider allegations.
This court is actually a jungle court. It is a wild court.
So Moses,
the only warden of that court, of that jungle, is NGOs, and the only people, those people who listen to is NGOs.
All right. So Moses, just to cap that, he shouldn't attend.
He shouldn't belong to an NGO. Okay. And this is please, you are an intelligent person. I hoped so. How can you make such a wide remarks about NGOs? You talk like a politician on a marketplace. We are discussing serious matters. They have legal implications in this country. We are not talking about forget about what the politicians are saying. We have a duty to inform the country, and when we do that from the point of knowledge. We have a constitution. Who invited the ICC here? You know,
nobody. And we've discussed this before.
Okay, all right. Let's bring in Professor Naituli for just a moment. Give us your thoughts.
Let me say this, that the politicians, when they are telling Uhuru not to go, they really don't like him. They are not his friends.
Yeah.
They know too well that Uhuru doesn't go to the Hague, warrants will issue. Our president will be an international fugitive. Africa will do nothing. What have they done for Zimbabwe? And what will happen, what is worse, if that scenario unfolds the way these MPs wanted to unfold, or the way the Kenyans who are telling Uhuru not to go want to unfold, is that it's going to create anxiety and make 2017 a nightmare. And they cannot use sovereignty to tell the president to go, because where was it when we slaughtered each other in 2007? The point is, the president, when he campaigned, he told us that he is innocent. I believe him, because he said so. We believed him as a country, and we voted for him. What we are saying is that he needs to go there and declare his name. He's not the first person to be accused.
Right.
Clinton was accused in the United States. He was tried by the Senate. He was acquitted. He was still the president. So Uhuru is a very humble man, the way I see him. He needs to continue with that.
Right. Professor, you know, I know we keep saying this was a personal matter, but the fact that Kenyans elected the two as president and deputy president perhaps makes it a matter for all to be considered. Sure. And here's the thing, the consequences of us being a pariah state, maybe we don't really understand what that is. So could you just elaborate on that?
You see, the consequence of that means our president will be locked here, because these guys can grab him anywhere else, because we are still members of that of the Rome Statute. Even if we are not, he will still warrant to issue, will be a pariah. Our president will be a fugitive, international fugitive. That means he will greatly be limited, and that means 2017 will be do or die for him.
Okay.
So that anxiety, we don't need it as a country.
In terms of consequences too, I would like to add this. I have spent most of my time reading, and look, anybody who takes on the Western world, I don't know of any leader that took on the Western world and succeeded.
I know.
Interesting statement. Moses?
No, I know. We fought for independence against the West. We won. We beat those guys. You know, they went back home. We won, and not just us, the whole of Africa. This defeatist policy, I don't know. I mean, why do you believe we are so weak?
I'm not talking about weaknesses. I'm talking about certain things. The world is controlled by the West in many respects, and they also control the information system. If, for example, I was in the position of the president and I was able to advise him, for example, I would not have asked him to give the speech he gave at the AU, because there were certain blanket statements like race handing. Now, you put even the sympathizers who would have sympathized with Kenya and in the West in that same box and call them race hunters. Now, my position is this. The matter that the president is facing, he knew he has a case even before the elections. But when he was taken to the Hague, he was not president. And we think that he should handle this matter, but we have given him the mandate to rule this country. Now, a way should be worked out. Anybody who loves the president should tell him, look, Mr. President, you have this case. People are saying you are a murderer. People are saying you are a killer. We think you are not.
That's what
there is a difference between the prosecutor and the court.
Okay, let's understand this. Here's the thing. The ICC always struggles to have a maintenance between, or a balance between, justice and stability and peace in the countries. Will there ever be a right time to try these two individuals when the country will not be polarized on this issue, Moses?
Can I say something without the fear of equivocation? That ICC is a political court. It was created through political instruments. The Rome Statute was a political process. Some countries opted to support that process. Other countries like India, like America, like China, actually 75% of the world is not in the ICC. ICC is a political creature, and it's going to...
Let me make a correction to him. The reason why the ICC was created, what he's calling political is a sideshow. The point is that in the mid-90s, we lost 1 million people in Rwanda. The world had no mechanism to deal with that, and it just watched. France was accused of watching. Now, on that basis, they said, if there is going to be another genocide, what will we do? We say we create a court which is of last resort, but we strengthen the local institutions.
We need to look at this thing in a very sober manner, in my opinion. And I'm saying sobriety is required because those who were here in 2007, you know that this country actually almost went to the dogs. There was no police force. In fact, the only institution which was left as a national institution was the Kenya Army. The police are disintegrated. Now, I have to say that there was a lot of peace in the last election, and I have to accredit that to the presence of the ICC.
Yes.
So to me, we need to be very sober here. The point is, it's very humiliating. I agree for the country and everybody to have your president sitting there being tried in foreign lands.
Yes.
But there's the price that we may have to pay to maintain this country through 2017.
Moses?
Because that's where I see the...
You know, I go back to the issue of that there's no dispute that crimes were committed in this country. And, you know, from what Professor is saying is like, you know, the forest has been burnt down by a mongoose. Now, taking a rabbit and beating it up and asking it to confess it's a mongoose is not going to help us. And that's what exactly is happening within the ICC. That we know very well that crimes were committed. You just pick anybody, alphabetical or otherwise, and say it is Mr. Kenyatta, it is Mr. Ruto, it is Mr. Sang, and say those are the very people who are going to guard. Because that is exactly what's happening.
Precisely,
that's exactly what happens in this.
That is precisely the point that I would like to ask my friend Kuria to understand. You have to separate the ICC judges from the prosecutor.
Yeah.
Because
I have an answer for that.
No, wait, you wait. Be patient. The prosecutor is going to make her prayers to the judges. Some of the prayers she has made in the past have been overruled by the judges. You cannot put the prosecutor and the judges in the same room and say the ICC is a bad thing. Why don't we wait and give the judges a chance to make a ruling?
All right.
Because this is a case.
Okay, Moses?
Let me respond to that. You know, in Arusha, and I keep on referring to Arusha for a reason, the chief prosecutor at Arusha, do you know who it was? It was Osuji, who is now the presiding judge. Do you know who was his deputy? It is Bensouda. Today, Bensouda is prosecution, Osuji is judge. But there's a very thin line within the ICC jurisprudence between prosecution and the bench. And they keep on playing this 2-to-1. You see all the rulings are split 2-to-1. Because the whole thing is well choreographed. You know, a judge at the ICC, do you know how much they earn? They earn 5 million shillings a month. The whole thing is an industry. It's a cartel that's well set out, that has got so many stakeholders.
You know, we can talk about salaries, but
Moses, first of all, let me say
Moses has lost his head.
You know what we are actually doing, we are indulging in, we are theorizing. Yeah. The truth of the matter is that both Ruto and the president, they submit themselves to the ICC. They cannot be jailed as long as they are sitting on that seat. Because if you jail them, how do you replace them? That is the question. I don't think ICC want to go that route. So but ICC...
You seem to know something you don't.
No. ICC need to guarantee justice for the affected, for the victims that we don't seem to think about at all. They are not in our radar. But the ICC is seeing them. And the ICC need to find a process of doing that, and I believe that is what is happening. None of these people, as long as they sit there, can be jailed because of the problem of replacing them.
I want to contribute to that point because it is critical for our viewers. The fear of the president, deputy president, is not that ICC can say you are now convicted and you should be jailed, because they can still refuse to go. The fear of the president, the deputy, is in the constitution. If they have violated international law and it is accommodated in our constitution, then that is the basis of impeachment, which you see in our constitution, and they are not exempt from impeachment. Anybody can go to parliament and move an impeachment motion on that basis. So that is where they are fearing. So it's not about whether they can be jailed or not. If any pronouncement comes from The Hague, that ends their presidency.
Okay, all right. I'd just like to ask you one thing, Moses. Do you think the court will ever be fair? Because you talk a lot about it being a political process and the fact that this will never be a fair process. And now we know the UN Security Council will be discussing the deferral request that has been made, even if it is deferred by a year, or even if we give the two time to rule for the next 10 or 20 years, as we say. Do you think there'll ever be a right time to try the two, and that it'll ever be fair, or should we just do away with the ICC altogether?
You know, I go back to December of 2010 when Mr. Ocampo, the former prosecutor of the court, said that he's going to make an example out of Kenya. So in my mind, it is very clear that this was not about justice. It was about making an example. He said that I want to pick some few names here and some few names here.
Moses,
so the whole thing,
Moses,
you might
trivial.
Moses, can allow me to interject?
Please.
Sort of the same way you would discipline your child. You say you want to make an example, and they say it in schools, you know, from time to time, that we want to punish so and so, and they even say it.
You should discipline people who are guilty. You should discipline people out of an investigation process that is credible.
How do we determine guilt?
No, stop heckling, Professor.
No,
you should not discipline people on the basis of investigation that were outsourced to NGOs. It's very clear that in the Kenyan cases, the investigations were outsourced to NGOs. The process was a stillbirth from the beginning.
So back to my question, Moses, do you think it'll ever be fair?
How can you plant potatoes and harvest maize? It is not possible.
So it'll never be fair?
It will never be fair. And by the way, they just want to say, you know, we just want some convictions from Kenya, one way or the other. By the way, let me say this without fear, that, you know, Kenya, we are first in many things. In athletics, we are first. You know, M-Pesa is World Crimes #1, but you're not going to be the first country whose president sits in a dock on a foreign country.
All right. Professor, they've said in that clip that we watched just at the start of this discussion that even now that the deputy president is in the country, that they may ask him not to return. Consequences of that?
I think there are, because the warrant will issue. You see, this is a court. That is a court, just like our courts here. You absent yourself without the cause of authority, the court will try to enforce its own authority. Now, Moses is right on only one thing. The ICC made the mistake when it took 3 PNU and 3 ODM. It looked like they were balancing. They also made the mistake when they failed to indict the two principals, President Kibaki then and Raila Odinga, because these were the people in front. The others were merely what are they called? The main principals, the protagonists in that contest were Kibaki and Raila. Those should have been indicted if ICC was looking for people who bear the greatest responsibility, because that's what they told us. Now, when they failed to do that, they politicized the process. And that's why, in a sense, Moses is correct on this. Now, having been politicized, though, I don't believe the deputy president and the president can actually afford not to go to the Hague. It's going to be there will be serious consequences for the country.
While I agree with the statement you've just made, that there will be consequences, I don't agree with your argument that Kibaki and Raila should have been implicated. That is not a legal argument. That is a pedestrian argument, because I can bear the greatest. I can ask Kuria to go and throw a stone at Yvonne, and when the courts come to investigate, they look at Kuria as a person who is over 18 years. And he, on his own understanding, threw a stone and hit Yvonne. If you do that, they don't take me in because I told you to do that. They know you have a brain.
But so isn't that the same reason that the president and the deputy are in there for financing and, you know, forced evictions of persons from
you
the
see,
various
evidence
areas?
is still coming out. We haven't had enough evidence. And I'm not in any way saying I'm going to defend the evidence that comes out. My position is very clear by the position I've taken in this discussion, that the president and the deputy should not prejudge what will happen at the ICC. Maybe even the judges will acquit them. If the evidence is showing they are likely to be acquitted. Now, when they are acquitted, they will be stronger. And that's why I agree with what the professor is saying, that the real friends of President Uhuru and Ruto are people like myself who are telling them to attend court. But the ones who really want to take advantage of their plight are advising them not to attend court.
Okay, Moses, we're coming to the end, so your final comments?
I want to challenge what the professor is saying. You see, the president and the deputy president have said again and again they will cooperate with the court. What have they gotten for it? That matters go out there. We say these people have got constitutional duties to carry out. Excuse them so that they can be able to carry out their duties, even as their lawyers argue the matter in court. In the first case of Mr. Ruto, it is actually, what's her name, Gradual Otieno, who wrote a letter saying no. Now, this particular time, you find that judges have ruled this way, then it is appealed. Because for them, it's a circus. And by the way, I just got a letter today that has been addressed to the UN Security Council by KPTJ, Gradual Otieno, and all those people saying, don't agree to the deferral. So I'm asking, in this jungle, how come only one warden, the NGOs and those people from the evil society who are listened to, how come it's not the body politic of the 40 million people?
Perhaps
Sorry, I mean civil society.
No, but you know, Kuria, you don't believe, Yvonne, Kuria does not believe in the ICC. He's complaining that somebody had asked for a deferral and he has issues with that. Why are you worried about deferral? Because you were asked by Yvonne, if they defer, will this case ever take off? Why don't you just say you don't want the ICC because it is not doing what you would have expected?
By the way, Professor, you know, for the first time this year, you are right, because I don't like the ICC.
Yes, say that.
I don't support the ICC. The whole reason I'm bringing the whole issue of deferral is just to show you that, again, the first time it was Gradual Otieno. This time is a whole body of those. So
you don't believe that the UN Security Council later this week
to the UN Security Council. So the issue is, this is a case. ICC is a case. Kenyans on one side and the NGOs on the other side. Period.
Oh, how many? No, you can't say that.
All right, let's have the final words from you, Professor
Knighton. You need not to support ICC because our leaders are on trial there. What you need to look is what we have been doing to each other in this continent. We have behaved very badly across this continent. Now that behavior, it needs a strong body to check it.
Strong foreign body. Add the word foreign.
Yeah, it's okay if you want to say foreign. I would say yes, because what we have been doing here, India means a lot of Ugandans, I don't know how many. Because of Central Africa, move to Seseko of Zaire. Even here, before we have this democracy.
Professor, you know, my whole point is that our quest for justice, and I agree on about the quest for justice, the quest of justice is being used by the ICC to pick on Professor Naituri, to pick on anybody at random.
I think we went there.
All right, okay. We really do need to conclude our discussion. Yes. Thank you for your thoughts. Professor Kisiangani,
my thoughts are this. I still have hope that the president will go to the, although he has said, he's made his remarks, I still hope he'll go to the ICC, defend himself, and clear his name. He respects the rule of law, and he protects the rule of law in Kenya, so he should also succumb to the international justice system and let people judge whether the ICC is doing a good job or not. And I hope the deputy president will not be derailed by people who might be interested to make a killing out of the plight of the president and the deputy president. So they should actually ignore the MPs who are telling them not to go.
Okay, all right, thank you. And we have to leave it at that for now. Thank you all very much for being here on Checkpoint. That's it for Checkpoint tonight. And of course, just a reminder that the United Nations Security Council will be having its sitting this week. They will hear submissions from the AU regarding this matter, and we'll continue to keep you updated on how that unfolds. And indeed, even as we come closer and closer to the date of November the 12th, to see how this plays out. Thank you for your feedback on Checkpoint. We take a short break now. We have some sports news for you after the break.